Welcome to Intersection Chats. Hello, I am Reme Mancera. I am a personal brand story strategist. I am here today with a special guest. We are going to talk about the intersection between personal brand story and email copywriting. Welcome, Louise.
Hi, thank you for having me, Remy. Lovely to be here. So, I'm Louise. I'm an email simplifier, a copywriter for emails, as you mentioned, and a strategist and trainer in those things as well. Thank you.
Nice. So let's go directly to the topic. How, in your experience, personal brand story and email copywriting interact to each other?
Gosh, where do I start? So they are so intertwined. It is what copywriting is when you're talking about your brand. So your brand storytelling and email copywriting, you are wanting to stand out in that inbox. Inboxes are incredibly busy places. And you, as your brand, your business, you want to be the one that people find and hunt out in that inbox. And your brand story is absolutely central to that because that is your unique indicator. That is nobody else can be that brand story. That's why I'm gonna just love this conversation so much, Remy, because it's all about being you and giving yourself permission to be you and share with your audience in a way that's going to really kind of connect with them. So it's brand story, my opinion is it's brand story, but not led from what's interesting to you, but it's led from the eyes of the reader within the inbox.
Mm, yeah, I love that you bring that because how I approach personal brand story is like whenever I am starting working with someone, we are defining, okay, who is your audience? What is your offering? What do you want to highlight? And then let's go to explore your journey and identify the moments that will highlight that. I created a framework called the 10 story connectors. So it is a moment, specific and meaningful moment of your journey, and each of them is connected to some a key factor of what you offer. That way, it's really strategic. It's just you know which story you are sharing and why. So back to your point, I totally agree on how using your personal brand story, especially in emails, is a great way to build that trust and connection with your
Mm.
audience. And then at the same time, highlighting what is interesting in the sense of what is important for them to know about your offer, about how you work, about your unique approach and all that. So I love how you have that approach as well of okay, what is your story, and then think about what is the connection and how can be relevant and resonate with your audience.
Yeah, exactly that. Because, no one wants to be at a party, for example, talking to someone who's just constantly talking about themselves at you the whole time. But it's about finding those threads, finding those stories that you can empathize with, that you can share, that you can find joy in together, that are leading to a particular end point. And you're absolutely right. Same for me, start with who your audience, why are they your audience, what are they about, really digging deep into them, because that's going to gives you the solid foundations of everything to do with messaging that builds on top of it.
Yeah, and as you say, like there could be more people. I work a lot with service providers, so there could be more people offering similar services, similar offers. There are no one else with your same life path, so it's something unique. And especially as personal brand, as the face of your business, you want people to really get clear on what makes you different. So using your story is a great way to do that because it's like what makes you unique is there. It's easy for you because you know your own stories and you can practice how to tell those stories. Again, the same with email, right? It's something that it's a practice. It's a skill that you can get better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real muscle, isn't it? We have to practice it. And the art of writing in itself is something that needs to be, worked out every day and practiced. And, it doesn't come easy to a lot of people, or it's not a natural thing. So it's building that discipline within it to get used to and become a natural flow really to your writing, and also giving people the confidence to be able to do that, because personal brand story, if you like, can feel like a really, really scary place for a lot of people. It's almost like they feel like they have to tell their deepest secrets and everything here, there, and everywhere. But I'm sure with everything that you do, it's not necessarily that. It's not sharing things you don't feel comfortable sharing. It's finding that spider's web of connections between you and your audience, and that, like I said, that are going to lead you to a place of working together eventually.
Yeah, and I always like to say that you don't need an epic story.
Yeah.
It's just the moments. That's why I like to say meaningful moments, because from outside, without the context, they can look like little moments that maybe doesn't make sense. But when you share the context, it's like, oh, that makes sense. I have a client, for example, she's a web designer. Sorry. And one of her story connectors is her drinking a glass of wine in her garden. And that doesn't, you hear that or read that, is like, okay, what is that about? And it's about how she, in a season, she's like working in the garden, getting everything ready. And then in the next one, it's just enjoying. And how
Yeah.
that's connected to her work is because her clients, she offer intensive service. She get the work ready in a season, and then their clients can enjoy the results in an easy way. So that's how it's connected. So for at the beginning, maybe it doesn't look connected, but then when you see the context, that okay, it makes sense and it's meaningful. So it doesn't need to be dramatic, epic, huge. Is about the connection and how you can resonate and relate that to what you offer.
Exactly. And I've actually had a few conversations around this before, where in some ways those big, dramatic, I met so and so, I did this, they can be very far removed from actually what most people are experiencing. So that connection isn't as strong as those very small, memorable moments, if you like, because you want to be able to see, your audience need to be able to see themselves in those situations. And if it's too big a story, too far removed, you're almost alienating your audience. So yeah, I encourage my um, clients to keep a list of just general day-to-day things that are happening. But it'd be interesting to get your take on this as well. I encourage to look at emotions. So I have emotion buckets. So what's happened that's made you really bloody frustrated? What's happened that's given you so much energy that you're jumping around? Like those strong emotions and those general stories that other people can relate to are so powerful to weave into your emails, your copywriting, whatever element it is.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally align with that, because and especially when it's a story that you don't feel comfortable sharing the details because it's something private that you want to keep your privacy. I invite people to think about, okay, what were the emotions that you have experienced in that moment, and what are the lessons, because those two pillars are more important than the details of how what were the private details. And I usually use the same example about how, if someone says that they have a relative with a health issue and that makes them reconsider their priority in their business, with that sentence, I don't need to say who is the relative of them, what is the health problem, or the details. It's just about, okay, anyone can relate to that moment where someone that you love is in a bad health, and you are worried, and everything changed, like the priorities. So again, connecting to the emotions is more important than the specific details. And then you can consider, okay, maybe you are someone that are working around diabetes, so makes sense for you to go and share a bit about, yeah, that person, the problem was related to diabetes and how that's connected and so on. Otherwise, maybe it doesn't need to be that way. And the more important part for me is that you are in control as a personal brand, and you decide the level of detail. And I want to know your thoughts on this, because I tend to invite people to use different levels of sharing details and going more into depth, and how, for example, if you go in, you can go in content creation, like let's say social media, and you share like over superficial, and then in the email you can get a bit closer, because I feel that this like a more, not safe space, but in general, like closer to the audience, so you have a more
Yeah.
intimate relation. And then maybe in the onboarding with clients you get a bit closer and share a bit details, that this helping them to understand the space that they can share their vulnerability as well. So how has been your experience in this level of details with stories of clients, or your own?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's exactly where I come from, really. The email, the inbox, they are your VIPs. You know, that's your inner circle. They're the ones that get those extra pieces of secrets or sharing or insights first. They're the ones that come first. And like you say, social media, for example, are at the top of that funnel. We're funneling down for that intimacy, which I really love the way you've put that there, that intimacy within the inbox. And yeah, exactly that, giving the detail and just bringing them further. I mean, you think about it, you're in someone's inbox. They could be anywhere reading that email from you. It's like you are in their house with them. Yes, it's the same for social media, but that's only if you've popped up. Like for an email, they've invited you in, they've purposely gone in and they're like opening the letter. You know, when you get that letter through, they're opening it up and they're reading it there. That's a choice that they've made to come and see you and to be together. So you owe it to them to give that extra bit of humanity, that little bit of extra human touch, and to get a little bit closer to them together. Absolutely. So, like within my own emails, for example, I share a lot of stories about family life. I've got two small children. A lot of my audience do as well. The juggle of everything, you know, trying to keep things simple is a core thread. So some of the stories on socials are, like you say, fairly light touch to do with those, and then others within conversations within the inbox go into that daily detail of, you know, those moments where you just want to get out the door and your little one is scraping their feet along, sitting having a massive strop, and the emotions that I'm feeling, the emotions they're feeling, and just in more detail within the words within the inbox.
Hmm. And you touched before, and now back to this simplification, how to make it more
Mm.
like simpler for us and for our businesses. I love that approach. This is one of my, I tend to say that to clients, since I start my business as a VA for course creator, it was like simplify and focus as a way to, okay, let's get as simple
Nice.
as possible, so it can be like the strand that you are putting in something is bigger. So I love that approach. But something that I don't want to pass is, because you mentioned how people open your emails, and I feel like that's like the first step, because in social media you need them to see your post, but then in the
Mm.
email box, in the inbox, they have I talk by myself. I have so many emails arriving, and sometimes there are emails that I really want to read, but there is like priorities, and I need to keep that newsletter for later, and so on. So I feel like the first step is getting them to actually open the email and read the email. So how has been your experience using the subject lines and the storytelling there to actually make people go and open and read the whole thing? So I would love to know your thoughts on that, because I feel like
Yeah,
if they don't open, then it's missing all
you're absolutely
the
right.
story.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the first step. But in fact, I always say to my clients, it starts before that. So a lot of focus is put on the subject line, but I take my clients before that to, in fact, just the name and the email address
Oh,
itself.
okay.
So when that name is popping up, what is it? If you've got an email address that is info at or marketing at, far less likely to be open than Remy at, Louise at, you know, because it's that human connection to a name, number one. And then within that, if it's Louise popping up or Remy popping up, is there a little extra tag, little extra tagline you can put onto it to remind them who you are and what you're about? So mine I'm in a point of transition. I was always the word tamer, looking particularly at words. So it'd be Louise Mcguill, word tamer would pop up. And I've changed it slightly recently to email simplifier to remind them that actually I'm there for them for those emails. So that's the first step. So they're reminded who you are and what you're about. And then we come to the subject line. And that's, yeah, absolutely. That is the first step in the storytelling, because, there are a range of different things we can do with the subject line to grab the attention, hold the attention, and create action. That's the three core things they need to do. So to grab the attention, but absolutely not in a way that is clickbaity and the rest of the email is not going to be about. That is not what I'm about at all. If you're going to grab the attention, give them the rest of what it's about in the email. Super, super important. So the first thing we can do with our story is open a loop. So, create that intrigue, create that interest. So that can be done with a question or a statement. Both of those things bring in that audience, and it's trying to get your audience to think in their heads, well, what's she talking about? Like those questions, that self-talk happening in the audience's mind has got your first buy-in, because they've stopped and you've caught their attention. The pre-header is super powerful. So we've got the subject line, and then the pre-header can continue to move them along that open loop, or it can give them something. I like to do something extra random that they go, well, how are those two things connected? Again, the brain's going, what is she talking about? Like, how does that even work together? I want to know. So it's all about building that intrigue. And doesn't a great story do that as well? Because you think of everything that you've read, the things that you're interested in, it stops you in your tracks, and it makes you want to ask questions and makes that intrigue build. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about
Yeah.
those elements within an email as well.
And I love how you put it, like it's really clear. So thank you for that insight. And and something that you just mentioned as well is like reminding them who we are. I feel
Mm.
that's super important because I tend to this because I was analyzing a lot of lunches and that, so I went through a lot of funnels
Yeah.
just to analyze the structure and how they do things and all that and the strategy behind. And it's like, okay, whenever I am getting emails, if I am not super familiar with the person, I want some clues about who they are. And that's also inside the email, maybe in the signature, telling me something about who you are, or maybe even adding a link to your website or to somewhere that I can remember who is the person behind. And it's because I am super visual. I is like when they have a little picture of them or something. That's helping me to remember. Oh yeah, this person. I remember. I maybe watch a workshop of them or anything like that. But it's like I don't know how that's like working with for example, when you are working with your clients, like how is the balance between understanding that they might have the context of who you are because they are reading all your emails, and then working as well for those who are not so familiar. So what will be like the balance between that, in your opinion?
Yes, there's a couple of things with that really. So you can group and segment your audience to those who have just come into your world and those that have been in your world for quite some time. And you can do two different slants on your stories for those groups of people. At the very beginning, with people that I'm working with, we tend not to look at segmentation just yet, because that's the kind of thing that can freak people out and can get quite complex, etc. So we stick to one stream at the beginning and then move on to that. So it's like anything really. It's being conscious of who are those dream people that you're talking to, what do they need to know, and what have you got to pull them in and help move them along that journey. So where I focus that my attention with that leading through the brand story is when they very first come into your world. So they've clicked a lead magnet, they've signed up to the freebie, and it's through this. I've got a 6-part signature nurture sequence that I take my clients through, and your brand story is interwoven in that, with each email having a particular focus and purpose. So within those, you may have people that have signed up to 4 other different lead magnets before, so they're very familiar with you, but it might be someone brand new coming into your world that's clicked on that as well. So yeah, the line is quite tight that you need to walk there within that email. But the one thing that I encourage my clients to keep in mind is value. So, what value are we giving? And I know that word is bandied around a lot and it can mean lots of different things, but it's so important. What value are we giving through this 6-part email sequence? That's looking at, have you put in things that are going to support them? So that could be additional resources. It could be insights, stories about you that they can empathize with, about your clients that they can see and see themselves in. So all of those things are going to pull people in. And when I say pull people in, I mean grab and hold their attention, no matter what stage they're at within knowing you, because you've got this 6-part sequence which is slightly different in its storytelling to other of your other lead magnets. So it starts with one particular lead magnet and draws them along with you on this wonderful journey towards eventually working with you. It's the start, it's the welcome, it's the start of their journey with you there. Some brand things, if you like, some brand story things that you touched upon with yes, your storytelling, but reminding them about you within those emails. It could be down to, the keywords that you use, the way you always sign off your email, that familiarity, getting them within that initial sequence. If they already know you, they're going to be looking out for, I always end mine with, let's do this because we're ready. Let's do this together kind of thing. They always end with that. And my regulars will know and they'll expect that because they've got used to that. My new people, I do that within their email, obviously. And then by the end of the 6-part sequence, they're used to that. They're looking forward to that. They know that that's me if I'm signing off like that. So it's through the little words and your tone of voice that you're using as well within the emails.
Mm, yeah, I love that. And I love how some people are really good at creating these words and expression that they are using, and then you get familiar with that, and it's like an universe of words that you are, this ecosystem that when you are close to someone you understand all those expressions, and they are really good for creating that. And even for like conveying the values and your approach in general, because of course you can use a different style of words, and it can convey different emotions, and it's like also something to think about. What are the emotions that you want to, the people that get closer to you to feel when they are getting closer to your brand and to your business, and then thinking about how that will be aligned with how you make them feel after working with you or getting through your offers.
Exactly that. And a lot of the words that I choose are going to be very different to the ones my clients within my program are going to be choosing. For me, my audience, and again, it all comes back to having that full understanding of your audience.
Yeah.
Where I'm coming in, my audience are probably they're in a bit of a state of flux. They want to get started with newsletters. They might have been throwing some out here that, it's the last thing they want to do, but they know they want to do it to grow their business. So it's all they're probably feeling quite negative emotions. Now, me as a person, I'm a very positive person. My background in teaching is all about empowering and supporting and guiding. So I bring that in. And, I want them to leave that email feeling energized. I want them to leave their process with me feeling, yeah, I can do this. Like, she's bloody well there for me. Like, if I can't do it on my own, I'm going to do it with her, and to bring that fresh energy. So they might be feeling low at this point. So through the words I'm choosing, I'm bringing them to a point of more energy than they had before, because that's how they're going to feel once they have a simplified system in place. It all kind of links together. So it's not that everybody needs to be this go-getting out there person, because I equally love to just sit in silence in my own space and be my own person, not a massive extrovert, but I do have energy and I adore supporting other people in that manner. So that has to come through in my words, that the words that I choose to use in my emails. So to get my clients to think about, okay, so who are they? Their brand story, what are they about, what are their audience about, and where they come together. It's so powerful what you help support people doing, because that can be really, really challenging for people to unpick their own brand story, to unpick what they bring. I don't know what you found with your clients, but looking at yourself, anything where you're looking at your own business or looking at yourself becomes instantly harder than looking at somebody else's. We're all really, really poor, if you like, at looking at our own things, because I don't know, the walls start to come up, don't they? What have you found with your clients?
Yes, this is something really interesting is how we overlook our own stories and things that are so natural to us that we don't tend to see as something worth of mentioning. And this is something that I invite my people, my audience, and the people that I work with to think about. Okay, what is something that people highlight or they mention all the time to you? Something that for you is just natural skill, for them is valuable. And then the same with the stories. I have one client, and she that was an super eye-opening moment for me, because she's a copywriter for fashion brands, and through the work together I asked her about, okay, how what is your first memory or when you were a child about fashion. And I was thinking maybe she was making these little dresses for her dolls or something. And she surprised me and she said, yeah, I remember being under the swing table of my mom because she's a tailor. My grandpa was a tailor. So she grew up in a family of tailors. And I was like, you haven't mentioned that in the questionnaire in this 1 hour. We're like 1 hour through the session. Excuse me. And it's like, you haven't mentioned that. And it's like, no, actually, I haven't never tell this story like in my content or anything. It's like, and that was like super eye opening because it was like she has overlooked this as a part of her story. She was thinking all the time about writing, everything that will support that part, and she overlooked this element that is like make her memorable. And that made me think of, okay, how how many people could be in this situation where they are overlooking certain aspects. As you say, from every one of us, I need help for someone else to help me my own story because I overlook my own things. It's like it's always something to consider how you can have an external point of view and can be someone helping you, like to create the content or to create the emails or to work around the stories, but even something around someone that is a peer, share with them, talk to them, and go through your journeys and help each other. Start there if you don't have the capacity to do other stuff, but having conversation around your journey will help to, okay, what is interesting for them, what they pick, what piques their attention, what is something that they are asking more about. So okay. And if you have this natural skill that is like in every testimonial is there, so okay, pick that one and think about other moment in your journey that maybe is not related to the work that you do. Maybe it's a past work experience totally unrelated, or maybe when you were studying, something like that, for example. And think of another moment where you were using the skill that is natural to you and was valuable for someone else. You can bring that story to as a bridge to talk about how that's something that in your testimonials people highlight. So it's a way for you to think about your own journey from outside, from an external point of view, and helping you to think about, okay, what moments to highlight that will help me to talk about the topics that are related to the benefits of what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think keeping notes around that is really important because, like we said earlier, those moments can be quite small from the kind of immediate, or they can be from the past. So journaling them, jotting down. You know, I'm a note keeper, so I literally have notebooks everywhere. I love the physical act of writing them down, and they stick and flow more like that anyway. So yeah, I big encourager for jotting down in the moments, and you know, because some days we're more in tune than others, and just jump on those moments. Put no pressure on yourself really for just jumping in those moments when they come up. I mean, it's a few months back now, but I was at a local attraction with my little ones, and we were in the woods. I love being outdoors, etc., etc. And I just had this like inspiration moment. I just quickly got my phone out, and I swear not, there were then 30 things that I just quickly jotted down that just came to me. I don't know where from the trees. It's like, you know, and then I've got that to look back at, and I can filter down. And in my program, I talk a lot about taking that pressure off ourselves to find that one story to find that one thing straight away, because that isn't going to happen. It's get everything out of everything that you're considering, thinking about, just get it all down on a piece of paper, and then move away, come back, we'll look at it again, and you can start crossing out, and you can start
Mm.
pulling into a yes pile. And, take the pressure off. That's why we need to simplify this. The golden ticket is not going to be there immediately evident. So just filter through, get all those things out on the page.
Yeah, I love that because it's like it's not that it's just one story, and then on the top of that, you practice and you see the reaction of people. Maybe in the emails, you see if they are getting back to you with specific stories more than others, and then also is how you are going to evolve. Your business is going to evolve, so it's not that one set in stone and it's done. It's something that is going to evolve. So I love this idea of just having this. I call it like a bank of ideas. You have that and you have in your phone. I use an app that is in my phone and also in my computer, so it's easy to reach out both. And then it's like, okay, just quickly make notes, and then you go back to them and review, and then, oh yeah, this makes sense to go deeper or not, or how this is connected to my offering or the things that I provide, the value that I provide to my clients, to my audience. So I think that's a great idea, great way. And I love especially the idea of getting the pressure off, because I feel like,
Mm.
especially related to, I don't know your experience on this, but in my opinion, there is a lot of pressure around using storytelling and being strategic and all that, and can feel like big and overwhelming. And I love the idea of getting pressure off. That I love the approach of this can be something playful. You can play with the storytelling and as a muscle, work with this and get fun from it, and can be strategic and still have a bigger impact in your business, but doesn't need to be from this serious and pressure place.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's exactly my take, if you like, on the inbox, and getting people to, like you say, have that fun, enjoy that party. You've invited them, they've joined, you're there to have a really good time. You don't have to, be, unless that's your tone of voice, you don't need to be official, straight to the point, etc. But equally, it's about finding your feet with it. So, like, experiment. What's the
Yeah.
best that could happen? I always use, about a year ago, I switched my terminology from what's the worst that can happen to what's the best that could happen.
Oh,
And
nice.
what's the best that could happen by experimenting with different stories here, there, and throughout the words that you're using, throughout the emails that you're sending. And does it need to be a perfect story? No, it absolutely doesn't. Does it have to lead a little bit? You can dabble, you can sprinkle them in, and just my big thing is have fun and play. Emails are no different to any other form of content creation, really. It's about connection, it's about empathy, it's about fun. And strategic thinking is about, okay, I'm going to have this fun, but I'm keeping in my mind that end point, like you just mentioned. Where is this all leading them to? So a
Yeah.
lot of the time, I think you mentioned at the beginning, starting at that end point of
Mm.
what is it that I've got to offer? We've got our foundations, and then we've got what is it that I've got to offer that I know can help people, that I know is going to really support them in what they need. And it's about them coming together, and then the journey is complete.
Yeah, and absolutely agree with the idea of experiment, because that's like taking so much pressure off when you are
Mm.
just, okay, I'm testing out here. I will see how it goes. So no matter what you are getting information that can help you to decide, okay, I feel good about this, I get response from them. And then it's like, okay, this working, I want to play more in this area, in this direction, or no, I don't feel like that, I will change my direction. So absolutely. Something that I don't want to miss the opportunity to ask you about is how you can, what is your experience and your advice for your clients, and so about using storytelling for the engagement, for getting people to actually reply to you, or do the thing that you are willing them to do.
Yeah, so thinking about within the writing, really, again, what is of interest to your audience? Start from audience focus. So audience eyes are kind of the first thing that we put on. So where are they at? What position are they in right now? And as for then the storytelling elements, it's about the hook, the journey, and then the bridge. So the three core elements to an email. And then what is that goal of your email? What are you actually bridging them to? So if it's a reply that you're asking for, be very specific. So it may be that you've told a story, or touched upon a story within your email, and then you're inviting them to share. But instead of saying, for example, hit reply with any questions that you've got, very unlikely to get a reply because people go into overload. They don't know what question to ask, and it's just too open. So instead of that, about thinking, well, there's the story that I've told. um, Give me one thing, give me one example when XYZ that links to your story.
Mm,
So you've been really specific. That's more likely to get a reply. And in the subject line, so going back to the subject line itself, you could be as bold to say, 1 minute, one question. And then, they're opening it thinking, okay, I need to give 1 minute. Is it me asking a question or is it me answering? So you've already preempted that there's going to be a question for them to answer, or it
mm,
could be reply with one word. So you're being very specific from the very beginning, and your story is linked directly to what you want the reply. What
mm,
is it you're looking for? So if I'm looking for like understanding where they're at right now, for example, whether they've not started or whether they have started with their emails. I might have started with my brand story for when I didn't have any emails on the go, when I was a teacher, etc., etc., and it was all a scary world, and pull them through like that. And then that one direct call to action at the end, knowing the goal of your email itself, is so important to get that action to happen. And
mm.
same goes for a click. If you're wanting them to click on something. In fact, an email I sent this week, I had a document in there which I wanted people to have a look at. It was an email that I sent way back at the beginning of my career when I was freelancing, and I was wanted to get the attention of a company. It was a cold email, really, in essence. I'd heard they were looking for people, and I wanted to stand out in the inbox. So this week I told that story because it's all around standing out, and also that pressure we put on ourselves. So I told my story within it, and I said, if you want to take a peek, here it is. Here's the actual email that I sent. Here's the Google
Mm,
copy of it. And pointed people to it. And yeah, that got a lot. That got a lot of clicks because I was clear with what I wanted to happen within that email. Why did I want them to look at a cold email that I sent, like, I don't know, 3 years ago or something? Because actually, it showcases fun, what you can do in an email, stepping up, and what's the best that could happen. I took a punt and it paid off. So I wanted them to see that they too, because they're in that position, that could happen for them too.
love that. Yeah, and I think something that you mentioned, it's like something key is like being strategic is like being intentional. You know what is the
Mm,
action that they want to take. So you create that email having that in mind and focusing on, again, simplifying everything and focusing on something specific will help you
yeah.
to go and actually get the results. So love that approach as well. Okay,
Mm.
so to wrap up, I would like to ask you if you have any message or takeaway that we haven't touched, but is something that you would like for our audience to listen to.
Yeah, I think just, with your brand story, we have kind of touched upon it a little bit, but just don't overthink it. Have fun with it. Have fun with it, and play. Life is for living and playing, and words are a wonderful part of that. And what you've already lived and what you're living now is central to all of that. Connect. Don't look for that big story, that one thing. There are many of those magical moments sprinkled around. So yeah, jump in and have fun.
Love that. And it's just sharing how we, as a person, each of us, we have so many different facets, and it's like sharing parts of your stories, helping people to see like how you are a multifaceted person and how they can connect with some part of you or the other, and showing what is your personality, what is important to you, why you work around certain specialization, why you are interested in working with a certain group of people. All of that you can use your stories to highlight that and to build bridges to build that trust and that genuine connection. So use it because it's a powerful asset that you have there for your business.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so last part is just asking you for one or a couple of words to summarize the connection between personal brand story and email copywriting.
Sure. One word. Gosh, that's the pressure, isn't it?
Or two or three.
Or two, or two, or three. Yeah, absolutely. Empathy is a core connection. Empathy. I'm going to go three: empathy, audience, and joy. Those are my three: empathy, audience, and joy.
Love that. For me, I would say strategic intimacy. Like you have this inner circle that you mentioned. I love
Yeah.
that idea of thinking about your email audience as an inner circle where you get a bit closer to them and share your stories there. So I will go with that. So thank you so much. This has been a blast, and I hope the people will get some ideas and things to use it in their own emails. And if they want to get and learn more about what you do, we have the links in the description. Just feel free to reach out to any of us. It's the same if you have any question about the story connectors or anything like that, feel free to reach out. And also if you have some comments around what we just were sharing, maybe you have a different approach. I would love to hear from people if they have something else to add to what we were talking about. So thank you so much, Louise, for this. This has been an excited conversation. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
Thank you so much. It's been a great insight and yeah, wonderful conversation. Thank you, Remy.
Okay, see you soon.